Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film my review of the Book Naturalist book club pick for the month of August, which is Extraordinary Insects, the Fabulous Indispensable Creatures Who Run Our World by Anne Sverdrup-Thygeson. And this was originally published under the title Buzz, Sting, Bite, and it is published from the Norwegian by Lucy Moffat. And so it's a very slim little nonfiction. Very excited to have read a translated nonfiction for the month of August, because this is Women in Translation Month. And I will just point out that you can probably hear in the background of this video the bugs that are currently buzzing around my neck of the woods, and I hope that they are not too distracting. But I thought if you're going to talk about bugs, you should have some bug noises in the background. So that's what we're going to do. So this little book, written by Thygeson, who is a Norwegian scientist. She works at the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. She currently is professor there, and her research is based on insect ecology and forest biodiversity. So she's been studying these critters in the wild for a long time. She has written 5 books previously, all about insects and biodiversity, and I think she has a wonderful attitude and a wonderful way of speaking about something that a lot of people find kind of icky. Like, people generally sometimes find bugs icky, but she sees the wonder in bugs, and she sees the services that they provide to the entire world. And in this book, she really delves into that. So this is a book that is sort of general nonfiction, written for a popular audience, and it's written at a level that anybody can pick this one up and read. It's very accessible. I found it to be quite humorous. There was, for me, just because I've read a lot on these topics, there was some new information, but a lot of stuff I had heard about before. That did not take away from my enjoyment reading this book. I found it to be thoroughly entertaining, and the way that it was laid out made it very easy to read. It's only about 200 pages, so perfect for Shorty September if you're still looking for books for Shorty September. And it's written in these sort of like little vignettes. So in each chapter, there's let's see how many chapters there are. There are 9 total chapters, and within each chapter is broken down into sections within that. So you can read 2 or 3 pages and set the book down and then come back to it. And I find that to be, if you are the type of person that finds sometimes that science books can be really overwhelming with their information, this is in very digestible chunks of information. So you can pick this up and set it back down. It makes for something that's really easy to pick up and just read a little bit and then put it down and go on and come back to it. Easy to do that. You're not going to lose your place. You're not going to feel like you're missing anything. So that's something that's really great. The other thing that's really great is at the beginning of each chapter, there are these delightful pen and ink drawings, and these were drawn by Thygeson's child, whose name is Anne Sverdrup-Thygeson. So this is really a family project here to put this book together, and I think that's really delightful as well. So yeah, I think, like I said, humor in here. What she's talking about is she's basically breaking insects down and talking about things like their anatomy and physiology and how that's super interesting. She talks about their reproduction. She talks about how they eat. She talks about how they provide services in the world, like the different things that without insects, everybody knows that the importance of bees for the purpose of pollination, right? And there are so many other insects that provide similar high-level services to the entire planet. And maybe you aren't aware of all of those services that insects provide. And this book really gets into that. I think it's really fascinating. She talks about things like how insects break down decomposing matter, and how if they aren't around to do that, stuff can really build up. So she specifically talks about how in Australia, when European settlers came to that continent and brought with them their cattle and their sheep, the native insects were not prepared to deal with the level of dung that was produced by these livestock. And the dung literally covered the earth so that nothing else could grow. Like there was something like, I think 500,000 acres or something like that, that was simply just packed dung that plants couldn't grow, nothing could happen. And it was like they were losing so much land to this. And so they had to figure out a way to bring in insects that would basically take care of the dung problem. And that was really fascinating. So if that's the sort of information that you find fascinating, you would really enjoy this book. I have marked out a couple of interesting things, like this, for example, this section she's talking about how insects have, researchers have found that insects have devised some very ingenious ways of dealing with their habitat, and that we can learn from them as humans and maybe adopt some of their ways. And in this particular section, she's talking about how termites in Africa, the ones that build the really tall mounds to live in, they've been able to adapt over time to deal with the very hot temperatures where they live in Africa, in that their termite mounds are self-regulating for temperature. So it says, it turns out that an ingenious system of air channels uses temperature oscillations outside the mound over the course of the day and night to create a draft that runs through the construction. This artificial lung ensures that cool, oxygen-rich air is drawn down, while warmer air, rich in carbon dioxide, is driven out. Architects copied the termites' ingenious design when they built Eastgate Center, a large office and shopping mall in Harare, Zimbabwe. Although it is one of the largest malls in Zimbabwe, it doesn't have any regular air conditioning or heating. Instead, it uses passive cooling, applying the principles used by termites. As a result, the building uses only 10% of the energy that would be consumed by an equivalent-sized building with standard mechanized air conditioning systems. So yeah, that's the type of information that she's talking about, and how ingenious insects are in adapting to their circumstances and how we can learn from those insects. I found this a very engaging and entertaining read, and I would highly recommend it. So that's what we read for the month of August. In September, we will be reading Every Day the River Changes, 4 Weeks Down the Magdalena by Jordan Salama. And this is a book by an author who is American but is of Argentine, Syrian, and Iraqi Jewish descent. And he tells the story of traveling down the Rio Magdalena in the country of Colombia. And so we picked this book for September because September is the start of Hispanic Heritage Month and Latinx. We wanted to pick a Latinx author to read for this particular month. So we're going to read this. I'm excited by this. So I love a good adventure story, and I have a feeling that this is going to be that. I also have never read anything that I can remember, any nonfiction anyway, that deals with Colombia or Colombia's habitat and natural environment. So that will be new for me as well. Very excited to try something from South America, which is not a place in the world that I have read very much about. So very interested to learn more about that part of the world. I hope that you had a chance to read Extraordinary Insects. If you didn't, that you'll pick it up in the future and check it out. And then join us in the month of September for Every Day the River Changes. And it should be a fun time. I hope you're all doing well and finding some good books to read. I will talk to you later.